Hey guys, you're probably wondering why I'm in a closet. This is our closet, and this is where the next project's gonna be. This is the light that's in the closet. It's an old fluorescent light. I've been wanting to replace this light for a while, and now one of the bars is going out, so it's a good excuse to replace it with a newer LED light. This house was built in 2008, so it's not the oldest house, but it's also not the newest house. And these old fluorescent light bars, they're in the garage and they're here in the closet. So we're going to be replacing this light. Sorry, I keep pointing. This light up there with this is what's called an Artika Skylight. It's a flat panel LED light, 50,000 hours, 3,700 lumens of brightness. So it should be a lot brighter actually than this old fluorescent, and it'll look a lot neater. It'll be flat against the ceiling, and it won't stick out as much as like the old fluorescent bars. We'll get started. We're gonna do all the wiring, which you'll see is actually very simple. Okay, so when you're doing any work with electrical, like replacing a light fixture, installing a ceiling fan, the first thing you always want to do is make sure that the power is off to whatever you're working with. I have been in houses doing repairs where the power was off to the fixture itself, but there was still wiring that was live inside of there. So whenever you're working with electricity, you always want to make sure there's no live wires and that the power is completely off. So we're going to get started, and the first thing I'm going to do is make sure the power is off to this light fixture. Okay, I've got the power off to this light fixture. The light you're seeing is being provided by a battery operated lamp. Well, two battery operated lamps. Okay, this is the work area. This is the light that we're going to be removing. First thing we have to do is we have to remove this cover that's on the outside covering the fluorescent bars. I believe each end of this is hinged, so I'll just pull that off. These are the fluorescent bars, and before you replace the fixture, you want to make sure to remove these fluorescent bars and put them in a safe place. So these are the kind that are just 2 pins on each side. So there's actually a little groove here. And let me see if I can show it to you. Right in there. There's a little groove. I'll try to put a little arrow to show the groove. Anyway, you just spin the bar until the pins match up with that groove, and then they should just slide right out. Just like that. That's what the end of the bar looks like. Those are the 2 pins I was talking about. And these bars have toxic chemicals inside of them, so it's real bad if they break on you. Just try to be careful. So the next thing I want to point out is this ridge that's in the middle of this light fixture. This ridge normally houses what's called the ballast. That also needs to be removed. Ballasts aren't required for LED fixtures, so that's another advantage. So I'll just pull this off. You just squeeze it and pull it off, and you can see all these extra wires up here. This box right here, that's the ballast I was talking about. So I'm not actually going to remove it from the fixture itself. We're just going to take the whole fixture down. But before I can do that, I need to remove these wire nuts here to free the light fixture from the wires coming out of the ceiling. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Also, what you may have noticed is I haven't had to use any tools yet. That's because this light fixture is actually pretty user-friendly. The edges are hinged, so it's easy to pull off the cover. The light bulbs, you just rotate and pull them out as I did before. And yeah, then we're right inside. The ballast cover, you just squeeze and pull down. There are screws that mount this light to the ceiling. First, let's take care of the wiring. This is the wiring here. Let me see if I can zoom in. So this is the wiring here. This is the wiring for the fixture, and these are the wires that are coming out of the ceiling. These are wire nuts that are on the end. You can just twist these counterclockwise to pull them off and disconnect wires. So this is the ground wire. The ground wire is normally naked, meaning there's no shielding on it, no rubber shielding or plastic shielding on it. So we'll just unscrew these wire nuts. and you turn them counterclockwise and they should just come off like that. And I can't stress enough that you have to make sure the power is off for this to do this safely. Okay, wires of the fixture are free from the wires in the ceiling. These 3 wires are coming out of the ceiling, and we have a live wire, we have a positive wire, a negative wire, and then we also have a grounding wire. This fixture is held up by a Phillips head screw right here, and here, and yeah, it looks like it's only 2 screws. Alright, so the fixture is now free from the ceiling. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure about what they were thinking when they mounted that light to the ceiling. But this hole right here, right there, that's where one of the screws was. That hole is massive, and you don't need a hole that big to mount a light like this, a light fixture. The hole on this side is also pretty large. I'm probably gonna plug these up. Yeah, I'm gonna plug these up, I've just decided. Okay, so I've got some spackling here and a putty knife, and I'm gonna plug up these 2 really big holes. This spackle it goes on pink, but it dries white. And we just want to spread it out. After it's dry, you can sand it flat and then paint over it. And you won't even be able to tell that there was ever a hole here. And as I said, this doesn't have to be pretty because you're going to sand it down and paint over it. Okay, now that I've spackled those holes and I'm letting it dry, I'm opening up the new light just to see what's included in the box. It should have everything we need for installation. Alright, so what we've got here is we've got the screws that we need for mounting, as well as the wire nuts for the wiring. Remember, these are the things that join the 2 wires together. And then we've got these fasteners, very similar to fasteners that I used in the camera installation video. These are a little bit bigger, and these work anytime you're installing anything in sheetrock and you're not going directly into a beam or a stud. Yeah, this light is much smaller, and I'll show you guys the wiring situation on the back here. Okay, so these are the wires that are coming out of the new light fixture. So we've got green for ground. Then we've got our positive and negative wires here, indicated by white and black. And you can just match these wires, these white and black wires, with the white and black wires that are coming out of the ceiling up there. We've also got, really conveniently, we've got these 2 hanging wires. These wires, there's no electricity that travels through them or anything. All they do is they connect to the lighting box, which is in the ceiling, and that's where the wires come out of. And that's also what you're mounting this to. These connect to the lighting box so that you can hang the fixture, deal with the wiring, and the light won't fall down while you're doing that. So it actually makes what would have been a 2-man job a 1-man job. So this is the mounting plate for the new fixture. This is the plate that's actually going to be screwed into the junction box or the wire housing that's in the ceiling. So I'm going to put 2 of the screws in here, and they're going to screw directly in to the junction box. And then once this is mounted, you can actually just slide this big fixture into these slides here, which are in each corner of this, and that'll hold the light up. But like I said, before we slide it, we slide the fixture on, we're actually going to use this little loop here with these wires. We'll clip these here so the lighting fixture hangs, And then we can put the wire nuts on the wires, make sure everything's wired properly before we slide the light into place. That'll make more sense once we're up there. Okay, now we're gonna install the mounting plate for the new fixture. We're gonna slide the wires through this hole in the center, and we're gonna match up the holes in the existing junction box with the screw holes here. So I'm just gonna line this up with the holes in the existing junction box, and then I'll finish it with a screwdriver. Same thing on this side. Okay, there we go. And I'll finish this off with a screwdriver. You do want to make sure that the mounting plate is straight. The mounting plate does allow for some rotation, meaning after you put in these screws a little bit, I'll show you. You can turn this a little bit. Okay, now that we've got our mounting plate mostly attached to the ceiling, there's still some play in it, and that's important. I haven't tightened these screws down yet. The reason for that is because there are screw holes in each corner here that hold the edges of the plate flush to the ceiling. These are important because when we put the light fixture on, it's going to put weight on the edges. And over time, that'll bend the plate on the sides, and the light won't sit flush with the ceiling. That's what the rest of the screws in the package are for, in order to mount this plate properly. So we're going to rotate this a little bit so we can get it out of the way of where we need to put those screws. Actually, before we rotate it, okay, I'm going to mark each area on the ceiling where those holes need to go for those screws. And then I'm going to drill the pilot hole for the fasteners. If you can't use your hand once you've drilled the holes to push these fasteners in, you can use a mallet to kind of tap them into place. Okay, now that the fasteners are in, I can screw down the rest of this plate. For that, I'm going to use an impact driver. It's 4 screws. They're decently long, and it's much easier to work in a vertical space this way. Okay, now that we have the plate mounted, we can proceed with wiring the new fixture. Okay, now we have the new fixture up here. And normally you would need 2 people, one to hold the fixture and the other one, to do the wiring. But since we have these clips that I mentioned earlier, we can clip them onto the mounting plate itself. Just like that. And that'll hold the light up so that you can deal with the wiring. The wiring is pretty easy. We're just going to match the colors of the wires and put the wire nuts on. So green is for ground, and that matches with the naked wire that's up here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to twist the ends together. We're going to twist the ends together, and then we're going to put this wire nut on by twisting clockwise. Clockwise to tighten, counterclockwise to loosen. Once that's tight on there, and the 2 wires are connected, we can actually push this up into the junction box out of the way. Next is the black wire, and we're just going to match the black wire with the black wire here in the ceiling, and the same thing. We'll twist the ends together clockwise, and then I'll put the wire nut on. Wire nuts are an easy way to connect 2 wires together. And just like the grounding wire, we'll push that up out of the way. Then the last wire is the white wire, and we'll twist that together with the white wire from the light. And we'll push this one up into the junction box out of the way. Careful not to touch any of the other wires. Okay. Now we can disconnect these because they're going to prevent the fixture itself from sitting flush against the ceiling if they're still connected here. We'll disconnect these and we're ready to slide the fixture into place. Okay, light fixture is installed. Now that the fixture has been installed, it's time to turn the power back on and make sure the light works. Alright guys, the power's back on, and as you can see, it's pretty bright in here. A new light right up there. It's powered on. Let's just see. Really bright. Okay, so that's how you replace a light fixture in a closet. And as I said, the skills can be used to replace pretty much any light fixture in a house here in the US. Thanks for joining me for another problem solved.